A wedding ceremony is one of the few moments where an organization is forced to show you what it actually believes, the vows it asks you to repeat, the roles it assigns, the God it puts at the center. And in June of 2026, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses quietly changed all three. The directive arrived without a single public announcement. There was no special talk on JW Broadcasting, and no Watchtower study article written for the rank and file. Instead, it was distributed as a confidential internal briefing, a heavily revised, restricted outline for elders known as the S-41 document. Not a magazine, not a convention release. The kind of document that is read out loud once, in a back room of a kingdom hall, and then locked in a filing cabinet that ordinary publishers will never see. Its objective? To instruct local leaders on how to reshape a ceremony that, in the organization's own words, honors God. But buried inside these closed-door instructions is a single development that almost no ordinary witness has fully processed yet. A line that, for more than a century, the Watchtower aggressively refused to say. A line that sounds nothing like Brooklyn or Warwick, and everything like the very churches the governing body spent decades warning you to flee. We are going to read that exact line in a moment. And once you hear it, you will not be able to unhear what it truly means for the future of this organization. Part 1. The quiet announcement. For most of the 20th century, a Jehovah's Witness wedding looked nothing like the one your neighbors had. There was no traditional giving away of the bride, no exchange of a civil "I do." The uniformity was strict. The officiating elder would speak for 30 or 40 minutes about the internal rules of the faith, and at the end, the couple would recite a single, rigid vow. It was identical, word for word, to what their parents had said in the 1960s. The Watchtower built its entire identity on being explicitly different from the world, different from Christendom. And the absence of "I do" was not an accident. It was a deliberate liturgical wall. From the days of Charles Taze Russell, the organization defined itself by what it refused to imitate. The cross was rejected, Christmas was rejected, birthday celebrations were rejected, and the marriage ceremony, in its smallest details, was scrubbed of anything that resembled Catholic or Protestant practice. Even the word ceremony itself was sometimes avoided in favor of marriage talk. Every linguistic choice signaled separation. So when this revised outline began circulating to elders, the shift wasn't loud. It was structural. Optional, the document notes. Recommended, the bureaucracy implies. Keep this in mind. Before the traditional vows are even recited, the elder officiating is now authorized to ask the groom a direct question, and then the bride. The question is simple. Do you take this sister to be your wife? And the exact answer the couple is instructed to give? Yes, I do. If that phrase sounds familiar, it should. It is the exact linguistic formula used in nearly every mainstream ceremony for the last 400 years. It is the line Hollywood writes into every wedding scene because it is what the world expects. And until now, it was a line the Watchtower's strict liturgy would not feature. But this isn't just a cosmetic update, because at the very end of this investigation, we are going to expose something the governing body completely refused to change. A massive internal contradiction that tells you exactly what kind of organization this still is behind the new wording. Part 2. What the words used to say. To understand the weight of what was removed, you have to look at what was there before. For decades, the standard witness vow carried a highly formal, legalistic, and rigid tone. In English, it relied on heavy phrasing. To love and to cherish according to the divine law as set forth in the Holy Scriptures. In Spanish-speaking lands, it demanded the archaic word atesorar, to treasure, evoking ancient scriptural contexts. In this new update, that entire rigid register has been wiped away. The references to legalistic divine law have been systematically softened. In their place, the confidential document recommends conversational, modern terms, to care for tenderly, to honor, and to follow biblical principles. It is the kind of soft, sanitized language you find in a commercial greeting card or a secular romantic comedy. This is the superficial layer. The kinder language. The affectionate tone. The vocabulary chosen for the camera, for the social media post, for the next convention release reel that will play on JW Broadcasting under a soft piano score. But here is the contradiction they kept hidden. In the wife section of the vow, the core structure of absolute male authority was left completely untouched. It was not softened. It was not modernized. The wife is still required to vow strict submission to her husband, in language tightly bound to the organization's traditional patriarchal hierarchy. The Ephesians passages remain. The 1 Peter framing remains. The expectation that she will defer to him in spiritual matters, in family decisions, in the raising of children, in the management of money. None of that was edited. None of that was reconsidered. The new outline placed velvet over the words. The structure underneath is the same iron the wives of the 1950s walked into. Make no mistake, they changed the packaging, but the content remains exactly the same. The kindness is on the surface. The hierarchy is in the bones. Furthermore, the iconic moment when a father walks his daughter down the aisle, a custom Western witnesses borrowed informally for years while elders looked the other way, is now officially written into the outline as an authorized, approved procedure. By making it an official option, the leadership knows it will become the absolute, mandatory norm in kingdom halls within a few years. And notice the optical sleight of hand. The most patriarchal gesture in the entire Western wedding tradition, a father transferring his daughter to another man, has been made official at the very moment the language is being marketed as gentler. Softer words, older customs, the performance of modernity layered onto a deeper traditionalism. Part 3. The pattern no one is naming. If this wedding update were an isolated incident, it would be unusual, but it isn't. It is simply the latest coordinate in a rapid, deliberate sequence of events. In late 2023, the decades-long ban on facial hair was abruptly dropped. Beards became acceptable overnight. In early 2024, the strict dress code collapsed. Sisters were suddenly permitted to wear slacks, and brothers could drop the tie. In 2025, the draconian rules regarding disfellowshipped individuals were hastily adjusted, allowing basic greetings and altering the treatment of minors. And now, the wedding ceremony itself is remodeled to mirror the exact Western traditions the Watchtower spent a century labeling as worldly. In the sociology of religion, there is a technical term for this behavior: convergence. It is the slow, calculated movement of a high-control religious group toward the visual language of the mainstream culture it once defined itself against. And it happens for one specific reason: institutional survival. This is not a Jehovah's Witness phenomenon alone. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has walked the same road over the last 2 decades. The garment rules have been quietly relaxed. The dress code at Brigham Young University has been softened. The temple ceremony itself has been edited multiple times since 2019, with the most patriarchal passages removed from the script, while the underlying hierarchy is preserved. The same pattern, the same logic, the same target audience, a younger generation that no longer accepts the embarrassment of looking strange to its friends. The organization's global service reports have shown a publisher count that is increasingly flat. Minor increases in developing regions are being completely canceled out by quiet, steady attrition across Europe and North America. The average age in the Kingdom Hall is climbing, the youth are leaving, and the children of long-time witnesses, the ones raised on the Caleb and Sophia videos, the ones who pioneered at 17, the ones whose parents still believe, are walking out the back door in numbers Bethel will never publish. When an organization faces this level of membership pressure, the leadership drops the superficial barriers. They keep the core doctrines tight to retain the ultra-devoted, but they soften the optics to reduce the friction for the younger generation that is slipping away. This entire wedding update is an exercise in damage control, a desperate attempt to look normal to a generation that no longer values isolation. If you look at any Jehovah's Witness wedding posted to Instagram or TikTok today, you see tailored suits, white gowns, bridesmaids, and receptions with secular music. None of this came from instructions from the platform. It came from the world. The official outline was simply lagging behind reality. The governing body isn't leading its members into modernity. It is running to catch up to where the membership had already gone on its own. And that is the real story. For a century, this organization told its members that the world's customs were corrupt, that its weddings were borderline pagan, and that Jehovah's people must remain visibly separate. This internal document is an accidental historic admission. The separation is gone. The leadership has simply decided to stop pretending otherwise. For the men and women watching this who left the organization years ago, who were told that wanting a normal life or a traditional wedding outside the faith was an act of spiritual ruin, who face total family shunning for choices the governing body is now slowly making official, who lost parents, siblings, lifelong friends over a "yes, I do" that the organization itself is now writing into its own outline. The only honest conclusion is the one no one at Bethel will ever have the courage to give you. You were not wrong. They simply took decades to catch up to you. If this investigation showed you something you had not seen before, share it with someone who needs to see it too. Subscribe so the next chapter reaches you the moment it goes live. And in the comments below, leave one word: the year you left, or the year you started to question. We read everyone, and we are building, comment by comment, the largest archive of testimony this organization has ever tried to ignore.